Hello, everybody, and welcome back. Again, TREC has decided that we needed new contracts, and I actually like the changes, so I'm inclined to agree that we need these new contracts. But what good is a new contract if you don't know how to use it? So we are going to take some time and do a high-level overview of the 1 to 4 family resale contract that just came out on June 15th for voluntary use and will be mandatory for July 1st, 2026. So we are going to look at my screen. I'm going to share it with you. I am going to again do a high level overview of this contract, but I'm also going to really hone in on a few things because this is the contract that most of us use like in our sleep. We use this all the time. So I don't want to go too fast, but I also don't want to keep you here too long. Okay. So once again, you know you're using the right contract by looking at the date. This contract was promulgated and came out in May. So if you see a date past May 4th, and that means that TREC has done it again and we have more contracts to review. If it is a date up here that is before May 4th, 2026, you are using the wrong contract. You are not supposed to use that anymore. Throw it in the trash. Okay, so paragraph one is the same as it always has been. You want to make sure that you have your buyer and your seller in the paragraphs here. Please remember that buyers and sellers do not have to be first and last name people. It doesn't have to be Jane and John Doe. It could be the business 123 business or ABC business. It could be a business that's buying and selling. It doesn't have to be actual people. It could be a trust that's buying and selling, again, an LLC or S corp that's buying and selling. It does not have to be a first and last name like with actual people. Your property, paragraph two, has not changed either. We have our lot block in our legal description. Notice that the lot and block are labeled, but there's a blank here. It's just a line right here for the legal description, right in this area here. That is for your legal description. Your legal description and your address, which goes at the bottom, are not the same. Okay. Your address is going to be the 123 Easy Street. The lot and block are going to be I'm sorry, the legal description is going to be a mix of the lot and block and a whole bunch of jumbled letters and numbers and trying to determine acreage and all that kind of stuff, all in the legal description. Think of the difference like this. Everybody has thumbprints, but nobody has the exact same thumbprint. So you can find a 123 Easy Street in Texas, Atlanta, Alabama, sometimes in the exact same state. You know, I can see 123 Easy Street in Dallas, but there's a 123 Easy Street in Fort Worth, right? But all of the 123 Easy Streets around the nation, every single one of them will have a different legal. Okay. It is a thing for properties to not have a lot and block. It is 110% okay, but they will always have a legal. So if you do not see a lot and block when you look at the CAD, the Central Appraisal District, or the tax, that's totally fine. Just put the legal description, the city, the county, and the known as address. Okay. Your improvements and accessories are as they were before. Improvements are going to be permanently upgraded or installed built-in items, and your accessories are exactly what it sounds like. It's just an addition. A great example that everyone uses is a TV mount, which is the improvement, versus the TV itself, which is the accessory. Notice that in the exclusions box, it says the following improvements and accessories will be retained by the seller, meaning that seller can take the TV and the TV mount. They just need to plug in the holes once they take out the mount. Or if they want to take out that light fixture that they spent a lot of money on, they totally can. They just need to replace it with something else. So just because your clients have an improvement and they're arguing with you or wanting to really keep those improvements, they can have them. The contract says that they can. You just have to replace it with something else. Okay. Your sales price, this part of the contract has not changed. A plus B equals C. Your cash amount plus the loan amount equals the sales price. Okay. I want to offer 100,000. My cash down is going to be 20,000. My loan amount will be 80,000. 20,000 plus 80,000 is 100,000. Okay. A plus B equals C. Whatever loan type that you're using, please make sure that you're actually marking them here. Don't leave those blank. Don't leave them unchecked. Have a clean contract. If your offer is cash, that means you're not marking those three boxes. You do not have a loan amount. Okay, so I'm going to erase that. You don't have a loan amount. You just have a cash amount, which the cash amount plus zero is the sales price. Okay. Your leases, the biggest thing with the leases, please understand this. It is irrelevant what's happening with the lease. All that matters is when I sent the offer in for my client or when my client accepted an offer from a buyer. Was there a residential lease on that property? Was there a fixture lease on that property? Was there a natural lease on that property? Whether that lease is going to terminate at closing or continue beyond closing, that discussion is on the addendum itself. On the contract, we are just identifying that there is a lease, and these are the three types of leases that there could be. Okay, that's all this is saying. Is there a residential lease? Somebody is renting that property. Again, whether that lease is terminating by the end of closing is irrelevant. That is discussed on the addendum. But please make sure that if there is a current lease on the property that you are offering on or that you are receiving an offer on, the addendum is attached and we are marking it here in the box. Okay. Your earnest and option money paragraph or your time is of the essence paragraph. I'm getting that from right here. That is paragraph 5. Okay. Nothing has changed here. Which title company are you using? Where's that title company located? How much is the earnest money? How much is the option money? And how many days do you want for the option period? Nothing has changed here. You see the spot right here where it's talking about additional earnest and option money, this whole little section here. If you ever have been trying to figure out when would I use this, let me give you a great example. Sometimes people are using IRAs, 401ks, life insurance policies, or any other type of secured retirement account or stocks even. They're using money from locked up places where it's not completely liquid just yet to buy property. And sometimes the earnest and option money is in that same asset. So it takes more than 3 days sometimes to pull money from an IRA, from a 401k or a life insurance policy or a retirement account. So some people might say, I need to put in 5,000 in earnest money, but I only have 2,500 right now. But in 10 additional days, hence the words that I'm using, I will have the other 2,500. So in my earnest box up here, I can put 2,500 because I can give you that within the 3 days. But give me an additional 10 days and I can give you the other 2,500. There's my 5,000. That would be why you would use something like this. It's just an example. Okay. Paragraph 6, who's paying for that title policy that we talked about in paragraph 5 and what title company is going to provide that policy? Notice that if some people, they will check, let me go back to yellow. Some people will check that the seller and the buyer, they'll check both boxes here. Please notice that nowhere in this contract does it state that checking both boxes mean that I'm splitting it 50-50. That's not something that's said here. So sometimes I've seen contracts where the seller is paying only 30% or 30 or a third of the title cost, and people are still marking both boxes. And paragraph 11 is that's where I would explicitly describe sellers paying 30% of title policy, buyers paying the other 90%. So whatever percentage or however the buyer and seller are going to split this, it is just like a known unknown that marking both boxes means that it's 50-50. But to be clear with verbiage or to describe if it's something different than 50-50, use paragraph 11 to split that up. Okay. Your will or will not be amended for your shortages. Please understand that if there's no survey required or there's no survey being provided at all in any way, then it's always not going to be amended because what we're talking about specifically pertains to a survey. So if there's no survey, then it's not amended. If it is going to be amended, then that means down here, somebody is providing a survey, whether that's option 1, 2, or 3. When someone's buying something cash, they do not have to have a survey. So that's why that's important to remember. If I'm buying a cash, my client is taking a cash offer, there might not be a survey included. So that means up here, it needs to reflect that right here. It needs to reflect that, and we are not amending. Okay. If a survey is being provided, then we are probably amending. Okay. All right. And then your objections are right here. Please make sure that you use an actual reason to object right here. Don't just put a day, an amount of days, and you're leaving this blank. It doesn't mean it means nothing if you don't have anything there. Please make sure you put something there. Is the property in or not in an HOA? And these are all just title things that people are looking for, PIDs, water level fluctuations, mold remediation, things like that. The title company is going to use that as part of their title notices. So these are just the different types of title notices here at the bottom. If these pertain to your client's offer or the property that they are offering on, you're going to attach the notice that goes with that. Property condition, we're talking about what the property actually looks like. Did we receive a seller's disclosure notice? If we haven't, when are we going to get it? Or is it not even required? Okay, you got your three options there. We are talking about if the property is being taken as is or as is pending, something that the seller is going to complete. For me personally, I use this box for things like seller to professionally clean the house upon move out, seller to maintain the lawn through closing, things like that. Because again, if something is not explicitly in writing, statute of frauds, then it's not really enforceable. I can't make you clean a house when we didn't discuss and agree that you're going to clean the house. So I write stuff like that in. I don't ever really mark as is unless I have a cash buyer that's buying something and they are literally taking it as is. Okay. Your disclosure about groundwater and surface rights, this is the newest paragraph that we've added in all of our new promulgated contracts. So please make sure you are attaching the notice to this. Just like your seller's disclosure notice, your sellers need to disclose if they're in a groundwater district or if there are any surface rights, if there are any wells on a property, things like that. We're discussing that on the addendum or the notice, but you need to go get that and you're answering the questions here, 1, 2, or 3. Okay. Who's related in the seller, broker, or sales agent disclosure? When is your closing date? When are we taking possession? None of this has changed. Special provisions, settlement expenses, none of this has changed. The part in the settlement expenses under the broken compensation, this has not changed, just the wording has, just to make it even more crystal clear that the seller will pay this amount towards the buyer broker's commission and that the buyer will pay this amount towards the seller's broker commission. Now, why in the world would a buyer pay towards the listing side's commission? It actually happens more than you think. So don't freak out about this. Don't have your buyer reading this and they're just like, ooh, what am I going to do? Don't do that. All this means is that literally the buyer is going to pay your listing fee for you if you're on the selling side. Why would this happen? A lot of investors do this all the time because they come unrepresented. So to make their deal feel even more attractive, they'll pay your listing fee for you because they can just add it into that cash value. Okay. So it only works if it works for the numbers on that buyer, but don't overlook at this and just think, oh, all buyers are out here paying listing fees. They're not. But if it works for their numbers, they might, and we need to have a box for that. Okay. Everything else is the exact same, except when you get down to the notices, they've added more information here for us to provide to the title company and to each other. A lot of agents will leave all these buyer and seller boxes. They'll leave this area pretty much blank. Don't do that. When you have a contract, your title companies are actually coming here first because that buyer needs to receive the buyer welcome packet. They need to fill out the buyer information sheet, and that seller needs to fill out the welcome packet in their seller information sheets for the title company so they can get the information to the party it needs to go to. And on the buying side, it could simply just be, I need to make sure that you get your wiring instructions, things like that. And for the seller, we need to give them a receipt of the contract, a receipt of that earnest and option money. But if I don't have an email or a phone number to get to them, how can I do that? So you want to make sure that information's here. And you want to make sure that you have your information for the agents as well. Okay. Your agreement of parties where your additional notices and addenda are listed, exact same ones that were listed before, except organized. Okay, so the addenda that are relative to financial, they're right here. All the ones that are relative to leases, they're right here. So they just made it neater, but they haven't changed anything. Okay. The only other change that we have here is the broker contact information, just kind of like the notices. They just need a little bit more information. They want to make it neater. Okay, who is on the selling side? Who's on the buyer side? If there's an intermediary, what's the firm that's doing that? And give me all the agent's information for that too. Okay, nothing has changed. We just cleaned it up a little bit. And then your receipt page, nothing has changed here except for they've taken away that extra broker to broker compensation area because now we only discuss that in the contract between the clients. Broker to broker is gone. Okay. Hopefully that helps. One more thing to remember is you are only using this contract if it's a 1 through 4, meaning townhome or single family, duplex, triplex, quad, and that it's resale, meaning another individual actually owned it. If it's a new build, there are two other TREC contracts that you could use for that, not the resale. Resale is person to person, okay? Not builder to person. It must have been lived in or owned at least by an individual person or a business that's not the builder to then move on to the next person, okay? That's when you would use the resale. Hopefully this helps.